lounging, son.
Welcome back to the Comic Lounge. My name is Ryan, and today I'm going to be talking about Batman Sword of Azrael, issues 1 through 4, the miniseries, written by Denny O'Neil, Joe Quesada on pencils, and Kevin Nowlan on inks, which is just phenomenal creative team. Before I get into it, I want to remind everybody, if you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button and check out some of the other dope content on the channel. A bunch of cool playlists to check out as well. Hit that bell icon also so you're notified every time we drop a new vid. Now, let's get into Sword of Azrael. I've been wanting to read this for a very long time. You know, I have read the whole Batman Night Quest, Nightfall, that stuff, and where, you know, John Paul Valley, who's Azrael, who we meet in the series, he eventually takes over the role of Batman for a while. You know, this is just something I had always wanted to read, but for whatever reason, kind of always escaped me. So, picked it up recently. I have to say, I really dug this series. First of all, let's, before we get into this wraparound cover by Quesada and Nowlan is so dope. I mean, just even like the cape flowing underneath, going over here. I mean, Quesada and Nowlan are such a great pair artistically. I think they complement, the styles complement each other very well. And I absolutely love this. I love Denny O'Neil. I've talked about him many times on the channel. One of my favorite Batman writers. He was either whether he was writing or editing, he had a hand in some of my favorite Batman stories of all time. He also wrote, obviously, the Green Lantern Green Arrow series in the 70s, which was one of my favorite runs, period, in all of comics, not just DC. Interesting, the creation of the character. I haven't read any interviews talking about like where the idea for this character came from. I mean, for a while, he was a very prevalent character in DC Comics. You know, whether it was as Azrael, then he became Batman, then he went back to Azrael, had an ongoing series that took place, I believe, I don't think it took place post this, but post, when Bruce took back the cowl. You know, we open up and he is, as you can see by his like signias, his drapery, like he looks like a soldier out of the Crusades, and his flaming sword. He's an angel of vengeance, and the Knights Templar kind of vibe coming from it. You know, he talks about the duty of the angel Azrael is to bring you punishment. The punishment is death by fiery sword. So he's going after this guy. This dude has no qualms, just busts out his gun, mows this guy down. And it seems like, he's taken out pretty easily. And, the inner narration, like the bullets tore through the protective garment I wore beneath my robes as though were not there and into my flesh. He's obviously wearing some sort of bulletproof vest. That doesn't help him. And as this guy, who we're going to learn who he is later, seems like they did harm you. And I'm going to put one more right in the middle of the forehead. But before he can, Azrael busts out his fiery sword, slashes this dude right across the face. And his goons shoot at Azrael. He jumps through the window, falls through the city, and we realize he's right in the thick of Gotham, right as they're celebrating their annual Founders Day parade. I love these newscasters too. Like her bright, big eyes, like wide open. This shit-eating grin on him too. Police estimate almost 1 million Gothamites are lining the streets for the annual Founders Day parade, Mike. Well, Sherry, the city loves a good time. Just I could hear the voices in my head, and you just see like all these people, on horseback, and then all of a sudden, as Azrael's grabbing this thing, nobody sees him, but he lands straight on top of the horse, blood splattering, fiery sword running through the city. Even this horse looks demonic as he's running through the city. Action is great. Like I said, Quesada and Nowlan are so great together. I mean, Kevin Nowlan in his own right is a fantastic penciler. So to see, whenever he lays his inks down on a penciler, you can always see his style shine through. But this to me is like such a perfect blend of Quesada and Nowlan together. Like you can see the little Nowlan flourishes, but it definitely feels like Quesada. As Azrael comes down a bloody alley, goes up, and he's like, he talks about, I don't remember what happened then, where I found you, the place where you live. If anyone was with you, I didn't want them to see Azrael's garments. I suppose I had forgotten I was wearing his face. And we see that he's coming to his son's door. Comes to the apartment and he dies on his bed. Talks about failing him. Make sure you open the package I left with you earlier. It contains everything you need. And John Paul Valley is just like, what? Who the hell's Azrael? What is all this? He has no idea. This really is an origin story for Azrael. While, Batman is prevalent in this, it's definitely I think focuses equally on Azrael, and we see that Batman, he's investigating. Alfred, says like, this isn't something that you usually concern yourself with. And he's like, well, 4 were killed, including Sherry Port. And oh yeah, the television personality, her. He's like, yeah, and I liked her. So he's like he talks about like how people were saying that an angel fell from the sky, and that after everything happened, he disappeared. Now he's going to investigate, finds the bulletproof vest riddled with bullet holes from the alley, but has no way of finding out where he is. Then he discovers. That's another thing that I love about this is the detective work that Denny O'Neil is laying down. Like really leaning into the detective aspect of Bruce Wayne. He's got evidence piece number 1. Then like number 2, he's like, okay, where did he fall out of the penthouse? It was Carlton Leha, right above the parade. And we realize who this dude is. He has money but no past. He's been trafficking arms, exotic ammunition, computer-controlled rockets, laser-guided missiles, all that kind of stuff, Teflon-coated bullets, which are the kind that can penetrate armored vests. So now he's going to investigate this Leha. What kind of man can this guy be? We see John Paul Valley. His dad is dead. The coroners take him off, and he opens up that package. It's got $40,000 of various currencies. A letter telling him to go to a small airfield in Switzerland. And as he makes his voyage there, this is where we're going to learn. We got this like weird little dude that kind of like looks almost like a dwarf that you would see like out of Lord of the Rings. He's got kind of like jagged teeth. His ears look a little pointy, very stout, almost furry kind of looking. The way his eyebrows go straight into his hair. He finds his new teacher, Nomos. And this guy's going to teach him all about the system. And he's like, what are you talking about? Is it science? Like, and this guy laughs. He's like, computers. No, not computers. Heinrich. And the dude, this big hulking dude that was with him, knocks him down. Nomos is like, I can't believe you let him strike you down. Did your father not tell you that you were a member of a secret organization, that dates back to the 14th century? So there's a lineage of Azraels that have been passed down from father to son since the 14th century. Your dad's not who you thought he was. He's killed 14 men, 2 women, and an 11-year-old child. Your father was a liar and a failure. And now I'm going to show you what you need to do to prepare to become Azrael. All the while, Batman's investigating his own stuff, and everything's going to come to a head. The paths are going to cross. But again, I love the way that Quesada depicts the Cape. The coloring in this book, too. I didn't even mention the colorist by Laverne Kinzerski. So fantastic. The purples, the blues, I just really dig the coloring on this book a lot. The shadows, Quesada really does well living in the shadows. That was very prevalent back in will be in his Daredevil run coming up in the late 90s at Marvel Knights. But it's so cool to see his style back then and see how it evolved. And then we learned about the Ancient Order of Saint Dumas that has its ties to the Crusades. Right, they broke off at some point, set on their own mission in life. And he talks about how John Paul Valley's been his father was implanting suggestions in him from early childhood. He's like, you may think of them as dreams, but it's time to make you aware of them. Batman, again, looking for any bit of evidence he can find to what's going on with this angel of vengeance, aka Azrael, why he was shot down, and talking about a flaming sword. And as he gets down into this little cellar, that he finds the flaming sword, sees the symbol and the insignia of Saint Dumas. This is where we get the whole lowdown look. And then immediately he sees this symbol and he says, possess you, transform me, become you. And this is what happens anytime he puts on the mask or the outfit of Azrael. He's going to change. It's going to have some sort of a mental effect on him. And he even says, I was like, so what, I've become a tough guy? And this is something that is prevalent throughout with John Paul Valley. His mental health, he's very unhinged at a certain point when he becomes Batman later on. And it's all through, the manipulation of him through the system that, was being implanted in his brain. So we see, the St. Dumas Oracle is going to give Batman the lowdown on where they began. They were part of the Knights Templar. There was an internal disagreement, so a bunch of the Knights broke off and formed their own group under the leader of Dumas, who, nobody pretended was a saint of any kind. And so, they fought in the Crusades. They had another falling out with leaders, King Taker's bunch. They got rich off pillage and loot, and then they disappeared. And, there's a theory that they split into Switzerland, stashed their money, and, lived happily ever after. But, as we can see, it goes from grandfather, great-grandfather, back for more than 20 generations. And they were not executioners. They were avenging angels. And he's like, what? It's because they put on a costume? No, they dressed as Azrael and they acted as Azrael in his stead. They became him. So it's like they become something else when they don that outfit. And so Bruce and Alfred are on their way, to track down Leha. And as they're coming upon this village, they see that this symbol of Dumas is basically has formed within the line of the fence and the trees. Nomos hears the aircraft above, and then we see this dude, Leha, take out this massive laser cannon and blow up the helicopter, which leads us in to issue 2. And we see, obviously, like, our Batman and Bruce aren't going to be defeated. And so they, Nomos goes further down into their hiding through this, underground tunnel, underground survival chamber, as he calls it. But you would call it a fallout shelter. And so there's plenty of supplies, right? And he's, tells them, be quiet. You don't want anybody to find out where we are. And Bruce and Alfred make their way through the snow. And we see that this Leha dude is like now following the path of a demon. So he used to be a part of the St. Dumas, but now he's broken off, worships this demon. You can even see, like, in the shadows of how it looks like the face of the devil. Dude's just straight nuts, talking to himself, talking to this Biss. Mows down his companion, lops off his fucking head, and Bruce throws on his costume. I love this. He even explains how he has a particular model that's laced with battery-operated heating filaments. And next thing they know, an explosion happens. And we see this ship make a hovercraft come out from beneath, and we see it's Nomos and Azrael. So they've blown up the headquarters to bury any piece of evidence. And they, Nomos thinks Batman's this demon. And we see John Paul Valley first don the armaments of Azrael. And him and Batman go to, they go to battle. They fight in the snow. I always love stuff that's like set in the snow too. And he busts out the flaming sword. But because he's not wearing snowshoes like Batman is, Batman's able to take Azrael out. But Nomos comes, rams him in the back, takes Azrael back, and the sword's gone, but he tells him, don't worry about it, leave it. And now Alfred and Batman are going to have to make their way back to Gotham. Everything is destroyed. That way nobody can ever, none of the secrets of the Order can fall into the wrong hands. And here we see Leha painting his face, getting this new demonic outfit because he's, the garments of the Lord Demon Biss. And now we see Azrael gets a little bit of an upgrade to his costume, which I really dig. I love how it's like you got the thumb and then the pinky and ring finger separated, so it looks like it's only like 3 fingers. This gauntlet has this blade that shoots out, and this flame can sustain itself much longer. And this dude's just fucking nuts, dude. Now he's going to go take down what little is left of the Order of St. Dumas. And as Batman's trying to, track down who the rest of the Order is, who they were communicating with through these, through this hideout, there's this funny moment where I love this, how Alfred comes in, says he made a spinach fajita. He's like, spinach fajita? In Switzerland? I would have expected chocolate. And then at the end of it all, he's like, yeah, maybe I should have made a chocolate. It could have worked. And so now John Paul Valley's full in the thick of it, training with Nomos. And we got Leha in this fucking just straight 90s shit. Huge fucking armor, massive gun. And it's all going to come down to it that Leha's tracking down these different members of the the Order of Dumas, and we even see the Demon Biss. No, Azrael, help me. And so Lord Biss takes him down. John Paul Valley doesn't even have time to get on his Azrael armaments and gets blasted out of the window, much like his dad was blasted out. Love this cover too. Got this demonic hand with the ripped Batman costume, the blood splatter. And so Bruce is seeing all this happen and sees John Paul Valley. He even says it, deja vu. Just this kid came crashing to the pavement exactly as the first Azrael crashed. So he jumps through in his plain clothes, dude, Batman costume underneath, and goes straight after Leha. And yet he gets taken out. Love all the reds here too. Just the action in this book is just phenomenal. I love this scene of like Bruce busting through the pile of wood, and then all these chemicals and these fumes are making him hallucinate. And so because of that, he's seeing Leah in this outfit but look like a straight winged demon. And he gets captured by him, dragging him out. Like, this is not something you normally see with Batman. He gets pulled in his van. Bruce is able to kick out the back door and make his escape. We see Alfred run to his aid, but the Demon Abyss grabs Bruce again and runs off with him. And then drugs him with this truth serum and takes him away. And then we see Nomos bust the knife on Alfred. John Paul Valley's injured. And since Alfred, he knows how to take care of people, fix their wounds because of Bruce, he's able to help John Paul Valley. And he, even makes mention that, like, I can't believe how fast your injuries have recovered. He tells him too, the system, my father hypnotized me, and Nomos is like, don't be telling him anything. This is none of his business. You should slay him where he stands. Leah is now going to take the Batman costume and pervert it to his own ends as he's going to take down the rest of, the Order. John Paul Valley coming to Alfred's defense. And I love how, this is how they first kind of get down to teaming up, and even, acknowledges, like, that he has some of the same techniques and knowledge of Bruce for training with him for so long. And I love that, Bruce can't get taken out by the truth serum no matter what they do because of all of his training. And this is where Leah takes the Batman outfit and just starts going to town as he's killing these guys after he made calls and basically forewarned them that somebody was coming, but really it was him that was going to come. I love that he says that it's such a great idea that John Paul Valley comes up with, worthy of Master Bruce himself. I love this double page. So sick. And then we get the awesome conclusion. Azrael is not what Alfred thought, He's ready to mow people down. Doesn't even stop. He's taking out all the security guards that are protecting the, this older member of the Order. And even though that dude's already getting killed by the demon, the guy that worships Bis, but look at the way he just mows everybody down, dude. I love the bright red orange. It's such a contrast to, like, Batman and these blues and these blacks and grays. And it even says, like, he finished his massacre. It was difficult to believe the gentle, shy lad I saw put on that costume was doing this. What did he become behind that mask? Something's caught his eye. Some stirring behind the panes of the greenhouse. Dope. I love this shot. But it's crazy how, like, confident he becomes once he dons the outfit. He's not the same person when he's outside of the Azrael costume. And now they're finally going to hone in on where Leah is because he owns this, he's one of the markers when they were tracking everybody across the world was one in Texas, and this is where Leah is. And just like crazy seeing Bruce all trussed up there, and we see Leah in the Batman costume. And then he even talks about, like, well, I serve my own demon. Some would say I've been writing one since I was 8 years old. I just love this shot of Bruce. Super confident. Nothing can take him down. Even as he's trapped and tied up, he doesn't back down. It's another great shot with Azrael coming through the gate. And then we see Bruce is able to kind of manipulate him, but he kind of didn't expect how far this dude has gone with his psychosis. And then we get this, again, another dope double page spread. And, he's responsible for killing his father. So obviously there's a little bit of the revenge thing going on. Batman all the while's tied up. He's like, I'm going to watch the infidel burn. And then Alfred's pleading, can't you save Bruce? And Nomo's like, no, Azrael does not rescue. Azrael avenges. Come, our work here is finished. And Azrael says no. And he does free Bruce. And he does kind of go against what the system has trained him on. And, eventually Azrael will become an ally of Bruce, which would leads him to take on the mantle of Batman when Bruce's back gets broken. And I love this. going against, he's like, you disobeyed, you disgrace your mission as an angel of vengeance. I'm not an angel, I'm a man. My name is John Paul Valley. That was my father's name too. And it ends. Great ending. Definitely kind of want to check out the ongoing series of Azrael, because this was the only Azrael book that I ever read. My other experience with that was in the Batman book, in any of the crossovers. But phenomenal series. Highly recommend this, whether you get a trade or single issues. It's a great book, and great writing by Denny O'Neil. Fantastic art by Joe Quesada and Kevin Nowlan, and Laverne Kinzerski on colors is just amazing. So go pick this up. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you're notified every time a new vid drops. And on that note, I'm out.